All right, buddies. How's it going?
Great, dude.
You guys have been on
Doing
the
good,
road.
Bo. How are you, man?
Getting over a cold, man. It's had its claws sunk in me for about 2 weeks, which is super weird because I don't never get this summer flu shit. It's strange.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah, it sucks. But right on. You guys have been out on the road, huh?
A little bit, man. We did a run to up through Nebraska last week and hit a few shows. We did a blues festival up there called In the Market for Blues, which was fantastic. First time in Omaha. We had a blast. Played a sold out big crowd, big show. Great festival. Ton of good bands. So,
Right on.
Good time, man. The place was called the Hive. I guess it's 311's old stomping ground, and I guess there's a pretty rich history there in Omaha. And we'd never been there, but really liked it. Good times, good folks. Some nice folks. Volunteers at the festival put us up, and some great accommodations, and really nice town. We had a great time.
That's crazy, man. You never really think of Omaha as being like a music mecca, I guess. But I guess as the internet has gotten so popular over the last 20 years, people are spreading out more and the music's all over the place. So, I've been through Omaha, I've been through all that region as a kid. And, man, back in the day, there was just nothing going on.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seemed like it. And then like this place they had, it was kind of neat, man, because it reminded me of like what you would want your hometown bar to look like as
Oh,
if
yeah.
like if you're like super, if you achieved all your goals or whatever, they got like your drum kit in the window and your records on the wall and stuff. And that's what it was like. And the place opens at 311 every day. So it was pretty neat, man. It was a good time. It was a good time, and all the venues were cool. Everyone we stepped into, there was a great band and people having a lot of fun. So it was neat.
Wow, that's good to hear. It seems like Middle America is more in tune with the live music scene than the East and West Coast these days. Sometimes, because I guess the bigger the city, I guess the less art can mean to people sometimes because they're so inundated with it. So you get out into Middle America or Southern America. It seems like people kind of appreciate that stuff more.
I think they do appreciate rock anyway, rock and blues stuff. Where sometimes in New York and LA, it seems, or the far coast seems to be a little bit more oriented towards other kind of music. But Middle America still likes rock and roll, which is good for us.
Hell yeah, it's good for us too, man. It's good for everyone because people need
Yep,
that stuff more. I think.
absolutely.
I just wish it was more on the radio and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
sure,
radio?
sure.
Yeah, really. Yeah, well, you know what? I just recently heard Rival Sons on our mainstream corporate radio station for the first time ever. I've been a fan of them for almost 10 years now, and it's like,
Yeah, they've
man,
been on the radar for 10 years and they finally, yeah, that's insane. And where Chris and I live, we would never,
yeah,
we would never hear that.
man, that's sad. Well, they'll come around eventually, man, for sure.
They will not come around here. No, sir.
Come
Yeah.
on, have a
No.
little faith.
I don't think in that format,
No.
at least with that kind of style. Hey, don't get me wrong. We're both we're rooting for rock and roll and guitar stuff. And, you know, just people listening to, people playing wooden instruments,
Right,
we're fans of that, but, you know,
right on. Yeah,
who know, it's a tough nut to crack for a lot of folks,
it sure is, man. We've all been through the grind, and I think the grind is worth it. I think it's worth it more on a live scene, though. You just got to get out and get people out to the rooms. That's where it counts the most.
Yeah.
Radio,
Yeah.
take it or leave it.
It's a different world out there right now, man. I hear a lot. I heard a guy talking earlier today that's a pretty well-known pop artist, and he said he was over touring. He wasn't going to do any more touring because he just said he spends all day long, in motion trying to get to places, sits around and waits all day long to play an hour show when he could be home creating or being home making movies or videos or whatever else. And I don't think anything will ever replace live music, especially for me or for this band. But You can reach a whole lot of people nowadays without moving around. So it has to be a
Yeah.
good balance. It has to be a balance of that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I read an interview with Greg Allman recently. Well, not recently. I guess it was a few years ago now. But he was saying, I don't get paid to play the show, man. He's like, I get paid to travel, to do all the
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
in between. And when he said that, it made perfect sense because the show's the easy part. It's getting there. That's the tough part.
it is. Yeah, and all the stuff that comes along with that, and then you got families at home, or you've got other things going on, and it's hard, man. Even with us when we're on the road, and we're a very small scale compared to a lot of touring bands, but it's still a lot of phone calls and emails and everything else trying to keep the machine going even while you're traveling. So
For sure.
it's tough. I think we've gotten smarter about playing shows and touring, and we're hoping to pick up a couple runs with some national acts in the next 6 months. But in general, man, it makes a lot more sense for us to play 3 or 4 shows in markets that dig us, or new markets,
For sure.
and time in with some festivals, instead of just going out and playing. Doesn't make sense for us at our age, and as long as we've been doing it, to go out and play. Okay, we're going to play 10 new venues for 3 people standing at the bar.
Right. Yeah, it's tough.
It just doesn't make any sense.
I've done all
Yeah,
that
it's
myself.
tough, and it's really, it can be really rough and, uh, you know, somewhat demoralizing,
Sometimes.
and it's just not really the way people consume music as much as what they used to. I mean, I love, like Chris said, nothing will replace the feeling of the live environment. My favorite part, to be honest, man, is the sound check. If nobody's there and the PA is banging, and
Yeah.
I hear his rig kick on, and I start banging around, and I think a lot of our songs may have started that way, but it's just there's just anticipation,
Right.
and whether it is all you thought it would be or should be or whatnot, it has that good nervous energy, and
Right.
it's just electric, and that's neat, and all that stuff's super cool, man. But like Chris said, to drive 300 miles between a bunch of cornfields to play an open mic night or whatever, that's and even like a good tour, or in the best. And man, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or anything like that. I love it. I totally love it. But you have to understand that at some point it's public transportation on some level, and
Right.
that gets hairy. That's a
For sure.
that's an endeavor. And Chris has got like his guitars and pedals, and you got all this stuff, and usually it's just us. It's just us too. So.
Right.
It's kind of a military operation, just but yeah, and a blessing at the same time,
Yeah.
And the other thing about it is we will never, as much as we get a review of somebody messaging and saying, "Hey, I heard White Girl today, and dude, I love that song." If they've never seen us live, they really don't have the full picture. There's nothing that we can ever put out on video or on an MP3 that's ever gonna do what seeing us in live in the room. It's the same with the Black Crowes or bands that I loved. As much as I love
Absolutely.
those records, there's nothing that replaces hearing that kicked on live. So
Oh yeah, I know for
we
sure.
we will always be a live band, but it is a different environment these days. So
For sure. Yeah.
and that's what we kind of that it's ironic, because that live thing is precisely what we kind of is pretty elusive in the studio. You're trying to get it there, and they're so different, and you're trying to reconcile them.
Right.
And eventually you always reference, like, man, when we're in the room and we're throwing down, and the PA's banging, and what does it feel like? What should it sound like?
Right.
What is the part? What is the riff? What is the tone? What
Right.
is the
Yeah.
So
The two elements, the live and the studio stuff. I think speaking from the experience I've had, it's you want to try get to capture that on tape, but I mean I found it to be completely different in that when we're in the studio recording something, it just turns into something different than what was in our mind before. So it's not as it can be more predictable than, or maybe unpredictable than, a live scene sometimes. I mean, a live room can take a song somewhere completely different as well. So yeah, it's just really different. But which kind of brings me to like the songwriting sessions for the new album, the new EPs rather, Ways. You mentioned that you can kind of riff out on during sound checks and how some of the songs were birthed out of that. Was that were the sound checks turning into writing sessions, and did these songs kind of end up, did any complete songs from a sound check session kind of end up on the album?
The only one that we kind of banged through that way that we did in practice like that was Down Again. I don't know if I had that riff. I don't know if I had the song completed, but I do remember we banged through that riff pretty early. I think I might have had most of the song done when I came in. But we used to just sit in a room and just jam until we heard something that we liked, and I would go home and write lyrics to that. So every now and then I'd write a complete song and bring it in. But this record, the majority, the 90% of this record was just sitting down and trying to create the best song, writing wise I could,
right,
before we jammed it out.
Which is kind of a different approach than
yeah,
you've done
before. In a way, some songs, Jesus Brother James, some of the older songs that we have, usually when I'm writing lyrics, I will write them all out at one time, pretty much in a burst. But we always jammed and came up with the music. 50% of the time, then I'd write 50% of the time. This record, we did it just because I wrote it this way because I really just wanted to really focus on the lyrics and the song structures before we jammed it out, because I knew it would evolve. It always does. If I write something, I've been playing with Brian so long now that I kind of know what he would play over what I'm going to play. So I used to come in and say, hey man, this is 6/8 feel, or this is this, and play it like, Clutch would, or play it like, give me a jazzy thing. But now I don't really do that because I kind of know what he's going to play. So it's better for me to bring it in and just play it, because that way he might surprise me, or we might land a lot of times with guitar and bass both. I think on this record and just in general now, we're intentionally playing things that we normally wouldn't, just so we don't replicate ourselves.
Right. Have you ever written a riff around a drum pattern? Like, is Brian messing
Absolutely.
around?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Anything from Monroe Doctrine from the first record, Stuck in a Rut on the last record. I just, sometimes if I get in that spot, and it's funny that I said stuck in a rut, because if I get stuck in a rut, if I get to a point where I'm kind of dry, sometimes I just go in and go, hey man, give me something funky, give me something heavy, what have you been, you play some fills or something. And we've had quite a few come in like that. So
yeah, that's cool.
It's pretty organic, and really, some of the best drum work has been coached up by Chris. It's fun getting a perspective from someone else, and having them change it. And Bo, I know you're a drummer, and sometimes we can be allergic to that. It's like, we were just playing through a song. Gosh, man, that may have been today or yesterday. But I added like this minuscule thing, and I thought honestly, it just made me play it a little sturdier. It just felt better, and I thought, okay, this is more reliable. I'm gonna go with this. No one will ever notice. And Chris picked up on it, and it just changed the way he heard it. And then, kind of listening back, I understand why it sounded that way. And, we just adjust it. And, he's great at, taking things out, or, saying maybe go crazy here. And, we just, it's a filter, and it's one that works, and it's both ways too. We have maybe take this out. But, when someone comes in with a song, like he does. I mean, this is a dude who's written 70, 80, 90 songs. You got to come in from the standpoint of, man, I got to represent this art. It's not about my floor tom sound as much as I I can steer it that way.
Right.
You know, it's not about that. I gotta, you know, man, there's some lyrics here. I gotta someone once said that, you know, described something we were doing as the drum part was maybe cinematic, and I thought, dang, dude, that's a compliment. I don't even know if he meant it that way, but that's something to strive for. And it's about the song, you know, man.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely, yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
at the end of the day, you don't have anything if there's not a good song. I mean, I've heard so many bands that are perceived to be good, but you know, they have a record with 12 songs and they're just not there. It just doesn't grab me, but they sound great. You know, there's nothing against them. It's just they're just not writing for the song, and I think that's super important. And sometimes it's super hard. I mean, something can sound like so simple to play, but if you're not focused on the craft of the song work, then I mean, it's not going to work at all. So, I mean, you're right on point there. For sure.
Yeah,
You know,
sometimes what the song calls for is not the funnest thing. Like Heart of Gold, that's a pretty simple guitar part, especially through the verses. I'd love to put some more stuff in there, but it doesn't really call for it. And I think at our point in this band's career, we're curating for the song, like Brian said, and sometimes I have to go, hey man, play, you know, open up and go for it here, because now I think we're hypersensitive to playing. And same with like solos for the new record. You know, before I've always, I even though we kind of play blues, rock, progressive stuff at points, I think I always try to come at it from a kind of a punk rock perspective. I've never really worked things out. I don't sit down usually and just practice unless I sit down and I'm writing. So this time I was like, you know, after the last record did so well, I was like, a lot of people are going to hear this record. I want to make sure the solos are to my liking, at least. You know, me and Brian dig them, and the other parts too. And as far as the songwriting goes, another thing to note, I think, is these songs are going to outlast all of us. You know, any of these records that we're putting out, you know, they're my kids, my son's son may be listening to Clutch long after Neil Fallon's gone.
Right. Oh, you know? For sure.
And nobody's guaranteed the time. You know, I may be gone in 2 years. I may live to be 90. But I think at this point, I'm really thinking, you know, if there's a rock renaissance, there's records that I listen to monthly, if not weekly, that I go, oh my goodness, I've never heard this before. I absolutely, you know, I'm in love with this thing, and find out the singer's passed or the band's no longer a band anymore.
Yeah,
so
long gone. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, that's why serving the art is so damn important. You know, I mean, you guys are doing a good job being prolific in your songwriting, because I mean, I watched you grow so much from what I've heard with the new stuff that you've sent me that's not yet out, except for White Girl. But you know, and the last one, Mountain, was so different than the one previous. You know, because I think you can't, and like you said, I mean, you can't really. It's hard to justify constantly repeating yourself. You know, if you're serving the art and serving the muse that, you know, is inspiring you to write. And I think you guys have been doing a really awesome job that way. Mountain blew me away in that it was so different than the other one, you know?
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
And from what I've heard on the new release, that's even different than Mountain. Everything I've heard, and it just seems like you guys are growing so much. I can't wait for people to hear this.
I think we're big fans of music, man, and at any point, depending on what either one of us or both of us are listening to, if you sit us down and say, come up with another album in 2 weeks, it's largely going to depend on what we're listening to and what we're into. But I mean, I think we always want to keep it the cold stares, but we've been fortunate enough to be able to put acoustic songs on the records and be able to go, okay, we're going to do something really heavy, you know, maybe like Headbent, and then we're going to do something super, you know, Neighbor Blues, and then we're also going to do something like Friend of Mine. So I think we've tried to create more of a brand than a sound. And with the Cold Stairs thing, you know, you're going to get some kind of gospel influence stuff. You're also going to get some really dark influence stuff. And you kind of know what you're going to get, but you don't necessarily know how it's going to be presented.
Right.
So,
Do you find it hard to write a happy song?
Yes,
I might
yes,
find
he
it
does.
impossible. I might find it impossible.
Yeah. Well, you're a rock and roller, man. I mean, I've pushed my guys before. I was like, why don't you try and write something happy, just to rib them a little bit. Just it's a joke. It's kind of a running joke. It's like there's no shame in that, dude. Just because the rock dudes, sometimes they get a little too serious about the stuff. So yeah, I mean, some people can pull that off, but a lot of happy songs don't come off as genuine, So I think that's kind of why the rock.
Yeah,
Guys,
I love some light stuff. I mean,
yeah, me
if
too.
a Bee Gees song comes on the radio or something like that, but a lot of times I'll say, hey man, I like light stuff. I like this song by the Bee Gees or this Elton John song or whatever else. But then whenever I really get into the lyrics, I notice that when I said I just like the light song, it's actually a pretty dark, heavy lyrically.
Sometimes, yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. Like Deacon Blues is one of my, I'm a huge Steely Dan fan, and the characters in their songs are always so tragic. They're just, those fuckers can't win, and it's just, it's. I like the way that they portray it in this kind of light, irreverent way.
Right.
But it's genuine. If Chris can write whatever song he wants to write, but if he comes in with some happy, feel good, sandals, sandals at the all inclusive song or something about having a good time, it's just knowing him, it's not believable, So I think the genuineness is what makes that work or not work,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you take a band like the Black Crowes. I mean, I love a song that sounds light and up tempo, but then the lyrics are just really dark, like you were saying before. Like Amorica, that's a dark themed album lyrically, but
what a great record!
Yeah, a masterpiece, and and it's pretty up tempo. Like the music doesn't bum me out at all, So I mean, that's an art in itself.
You look at like Cursed Diamond though. You look at some of those lyrics on there, and
oh,
I mean,
man.
This band would not be. I would not be the writer that I am if not for that record specifically. That record just completely flipped me on my ear lyrically. But yeah, I don't. This band is the most honest, genuine thing that we can do. We've been in bands even together that were trying to get a record deal or trying to do one thing or another. It just wasn't normal. There is, the warts and the pimples and everything else that's on us and on this record and on these songs. That's really who we are and who I am lyrically.
Right.
There's a love song on the new record. It's the first time, I wrote a song for my wife and recorded it, and we were working on it here at the house, and I didn't really, it wasn't supposed to be on the record, and the record company let the fans hear it, and they liked it, and the record company wanted to put it on the record. But even the love song to my wife is called Might As Well Die. So, it's like...
He describes all the ways that they should kill him if he can't be with his wife.
Right. Yeah. That's a universal theme sometimes, I think. Yeah, you can find that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's a brave thing to do, to write a love song, man. And, congrats to you. See, that's just you growing even more. So it's like when Metallica did Nothing Else Matters, everyone freaked the fuck out. And it's like, well, that's what they were feeling, and that's a really good song. So either come with them or don't. That's how it is. You don't have to listen to it.
Yeah, and this one's still cold stares, but
sure.
It is. Yeah, I was thinking about a lot of older people, man. I had a guy in my neighborhood that just passed away, and when my grandfather died, my grandmother followed pretty close afterwards. I think when people are finally happy with each other and you lose somebody, even if it's not a spouse, even if it's a good friend, a lot of times that whole if you lose somebody, and not to be overly morbid, but in that particular song that we're talking about, sometimes worst case scenario happened if you lost your spouse or you lost your loved one. You might as well, I don't know. That one.
It's good good.
Not the most chipper song, maybe, but
Yeah, right.
it's
Well,
honest too. So.
it's good. It's good subject matter for a rock and roll song for sure.
There you go.
Kind of brings me to, as far as recording the new record, you guys did it at Sam Phillips recording studio in Memphis, correct?
We did.
Yeah, and that was that crowdfunded? Am I remembering that correctly?
No. We did a record this time with Anti-Fragile record company out of New York. Tom Serig runs that company, and he's worked with 9 Inch Nails, Seven Dust, a ton of big bands, Cake.
Lou Reed.
He was Lou Reed's manager for a number of years, personal manager, and
nice.
managed his career. So that's the label, and then we did the record with them this time. Not like a traditional record deal. It's a little bit forward thinking in the way that we did it, but no, we didn't have to crowdsource this one. We did Mountain, and really the success of Mountain and being able to do it that way really set this one went up to be done. We walked into this record deal on this record and finished it kind of where we're starting.
Did you guys choose the studio, or did the record company do it?
No, we did.
Yeah.
We did. I think I did. I kind of pushed Brian into.
Yeah, you did. Yep.
Whatever I'm thinking. We looked at a bunch of studios, but one of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to do the 3 piece, and so originally what we had thought, and we talked it through, we were going to do the acoustic stuff in New Mexico, or while we were out south by Southwest.
Yeah, I remember you saying
because it had that Western vibe.
Right.
And then we were going to do the hard rock stuff in L.A. or New York, and we were going to do Electric Ladyland in New York.
Oh, no kidding.
And we called to book the studio. We couldn't get a phone call back. And it's just not being run the way it should. And then the other rock studios that we looked at, none of those studios were either up and functioning, or if they were, they weren't who they were. And so Sam Phillips is still the studio that it was in its heyday, minus those legends being gone. Yeah, it's still got the same carpet, still got the same, and that was the best thing. And the worst thing about it was I got to use Muddy, Howlin' Wolf's mic. Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf's mic. Got to use a lot of the old gear that the legends use. And doing that, you also got a bunch of old gear that always breaks down too. So
right, for sure.
Took us a while.
That sets a vibe for the recording, and I know for a fact that it probably affected it in some way that you didn't think it was gonna affect it sound wise,
Oh, I guarantee it. We were fairly frustrated about a day and a half, 2 days in.
Yeah.
Because of the process, and we kind of talked about it. I said, hey, we'll try to stick it out, and hopefully the struggle of this is going to go into the record, and it did. It helped.
It totally did. It flipped in 2 days, like from oh my gosh, what have we done? What kind of decision have we made? To man, how did we luck into this decision?
Yeah.
And things that are that choice of that studio. There are things that are so unique to that studio. The reverb chambers, the real reverbs. I mean, that's that room and that space. You're not getting that anywhere else.
Right. For
better, for worse. That's we recorded some air at a certain time, and that's where we were. And that's I don't know what's more real than that. So.
Part of the thing, we've been spoiled. We were spoiled in the past. We worked at Blackbird Studio in Nashville, or East West in Los Angeles. We worked with Mark Needham. Everything in that room is brand new and is functioning properly.
Yeah, you just
there's 5 assistants waiting to go get you Starbucks or get a different tube for a different amplifier if you want to try something. This, we worked with 2 guys that work out of Memphis, the engineer out of Memphis that work on rock and soul stuff down there.
Independent guys, busting their tails to work in the industry and making good records, young dudes and young hungry guys,
Yeah, and
It's
that's
just a different aesthetic altogether that we pushed ourselves into, to get where we were. But Sam Phillips was the only studio, and I'm sure there's a couple other ones out there, but for us to get into a legendary studio and to do it that way, it was really the only choice. And then whenever we looked at it, I thought, not only has there been some great blues records made there, which we did blues EP, but there's been some great rock records there too. So there wasn't really a reason to split it up into 3 studios when we could do it all there. So
right.
it just
Yeah,
made sense.
it's just more efficient. That's
Yeah.
That's cool, and it's kind of rare these days. Those old studios, as you said before. So I mean, you've captured a moment in time, and that's going to last forever, like we said before. So I mean, that's all super important stuff. You know what? You know what I'm thinking as you are talking about Sam Phillips and Reverb. It's like you guys should try to make it down to Muscle Shoals sometime and do something with Dave Cobb, seeing how you're out of Nashville, or at least you used to be kind of out of Nashville. So I mean that I think that guy would meld with you guys perfectly.
Dave is great, but here's the thing with Dave. He's done his thing with Rival Sons, and we love those guys, and that's kind of their thing, and that's kind of his thing. And same with Muscle Shoals. Muscle Shoals is amazing, and I'm sure that room is killer. But everybody's already kind of done that, and we don't want to got in the trap of doing that a couple times in our career where we said, "Oh man, this record was made here, and we really like it or really like this band," and I don't know.
That's a good. That's actually a good concern to have. You want to remain your own too. So yeah, I could definitely see that actually. But yeah, it's all good. All good stuff. But well, right on. So what's next for you guys? The album comes out in October. Well, the first set, right?
The full thing will be out October 18th, but September 6th. So we're just a few weeks away from the first EP drop, and that's the Black EP, which is the hard rock EP. Comes out September 6th, and then a couple weeks later, the White EP comes out, which is the acoustic EP, and then October 11th, the last of the EP, so the Blue EP, which is the blues one, obviously, comes out, and then the full record's out 1 week later. So it's dropping a little bit at a time. We kind of did that so that we would hit a few different genres on streaming platforms, have some different opportunities there, and then just to stage it differently. It's been incredibly difficult to do it this way because I'm impatient.
Right.
And I want it all out.
Right.
I want to give it all to the fans and put up a Dropbox link tonight so everybody can hear it.
It's a really smart move, though. I think it's a really good move for you guys, and it's even I hear you on that. I can be impatient too as an artist, but I think in this world of streaming and short attention spans, I think this is gonna serve you guys a lot better. Just dealing with the climate that we're in. So I think it's a great idea, and other bands are doing it too now. So, well, it will be a success for you. There's no doubt about it. Is there any extensive touring plans? I know you guys say you do kind of targeted markets, but after the record comes out, are you guys planning on hitting the road hard in 2020 or?
We are going to Las Vegas, to Los Angeles, and some West Coast stuff this year in November. And then we're going to figure all the rest. We've got an agent now, so we're trying to figure out some national tour stuff where we get on the road with support somebody. Right. So hopefully that's in the cards for the spring. And then we really would like to get back over to Europe in the spring or early summer of next year too, because we've done really, really well over there. Streaming wise, we did so well on the tour last year over there. So like to continue to, water that plant and grow that over there.
Yeah,
since we've done.
They love the rock and roll in Europe, man. It's like Sweden and France and all those guys. They've never let go. I wish America would kind of take some notes. I think we're kind of starting to with all the European style festivals over here, but and maybe it's making a little revival with the rock and roll in America. But I think in Europe, I think if you guys hit those markets hard and consistent, I mean, you'd be huge over there in a couple years, 2-3 years probably.
But we'll see. We've done really well over there so far, and I think I think we may be doing the Joe Bonamassa Blues Cruise, and I'm not for sure if that's going to be in February or a little bit later on in the year. But we've got a little birdie told us that we might be doing that, so that'd be fun to do.
Hell yeah!
So we're planning on hitting it pretty hard when the record comes out, and just working those dates as smart as we can.
All right, and White Girl's out now.
Doing really well so far, yeah.
Okay, cool. So everybody can go check that out. That's on all the streaming platforms, correct? White Girl.
It's on all the streaming platforms, and luckily enough, we've hit. It's in all new rock playlist on Spotify, and now it's in breaking rock workout playlists on Apple Music.
Right on.
So on the playlist in Deezer, yeah. So it's making the rounds, doing well for us.
Cool, man.
Yeah, and I think I saw it was the last song on the set list for tomorrow night. So if you're in Evansville, Indiana, at 11:47, you might hear that.
Yeah.
I think the podcast is going to come out next week, so
Yeah.
it'll be.
Yeah,
But you guys play in Indiana.
That's good because we may chicken out of that song. We're trying to break that one in. So
yeah, just tear it up, man. Fuck it.
We've created a monster.
Hey
so.
man, Chris likes punk rock. That's the punk rock way to go. Even if you don't know the song, just jam it out anyway.
That's right. That's right.
They'll,
we do that every time. So
Yeah.
it's nothing new there.
I know the feeling. On that. New songs are always there's always a level of trepidation there, until you play it a bunch of times. So I get it completely. Well, let me know if you guys want to come to Ohio, man. We'll try to get a show going, or if we don't have our project going, we'll help you guys out any way we can in the Ohio markets. And let's talk again before, or maybe not before the album comes out, but we'll maybe do the end of the year or beginning of the new year for the EPs and get it out there.
Sounds great, man.
Another push.
Yeah, we're in Ohio, not this weekend, but next weekend, I think.
Oh yeah, you said Marietta or something, right?
What town is it?
Marion?
Marietta.
The 24th, Marion, Ohio.
Yeah. Blues Festival up there.
August 24th.
So, yeah.
All right.
But we need to make the run back through Canton and some other places still. So
Yeah,
hopefully
right.
we'll get back up there.
There's a great
later
place
in the year.
in Akron too. There's a couple pretty good places in Akron. I'll let you guys know off air, and we'll maybe try to get something going on.
Great, man.
All right, we guys take care, and looking forward to the new record out officially, and the full length is out. You said October, what was it, 25th?
18th.
October 18th. Okay, and we'll pump that when it comes out. And any last words, Brian?
No last words, man. Great to talk to you, and hope to see you soon, Bo. Thanks for all you do, man.
No problem, man. It's my pleasure. It's actually a lot of fun, and I love talking to you guys, and I just want to help any way I can. So, all right, good luck out there until then, and we'll talk again real soon, man. I'll stay in touch.
Sounds good, Bo. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. I'll talk to you off air, or I'll let you know via email what's going on.
Sounds good.
Sounds great, Bo. Thanks, man.
Take
Really
it easy,
appreciate
man.
it.
No problem. Take it easy, guys.
Good night, man.
Night.